you really have to show that it's a priority to you
Mm-hmm.
for your developers, that they have a good experience.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, it starts with the documentation, but also the engagement.
Right.
Like, what are you telling them about your APIs as they're changing, and how are you communicating that to them in a way that's easy for them to consume and test? Like, okay, that's a feature I want to use.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, this is a breaking change. How do I stay ahead of it? What do I need to do?
Hey everyone, Pooja here. I'm a senior developer advocate here at Postman, and I'm at PostCon 2025. We're talking about so many different things, and one of my favorite topics is public API. I'm here with Noah, who is the head of the Public API Network, and I'm super excited to be talking to him about all things APIs. Hey Noah, how's it going?
It's going great. Thanks, Pooja, for having me.
Yeah, of course. Noah, you want to introduce yourself a little bit?
Sure. Quick intro. My name's Noah Schwartz. I joined Postman a little bit under 2 years ago. Prior to joining Postman, the job I had just immediately before it, I looked after a bunch of services within AWS Marketplace, and I didn't really know that I was going to be working on these two-sided networks for my career. I was doing that for 6 years, and then now I'm doing that here at Postman, working on our public API network, as you mentioned, and it's been a ton of fun.
So for those of you who don't know what the Public API Network is, it's kind of like a social network for APIs. Would you say that?
Yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, there's we should probably worth talking about what a network is. A network is, it's when you have people who produce content and people who consume content. And I think in that sense, it's very much like a social network. When we talk to developers and the reasons why they use it, it's to learn about APIs, discover APIs that they need for use cases, see what other developers are saying, see what other developers are using, see what companies are saying and what they're launching about their own APIs. So in that sense, it's very social. It's also social for the companies who are on the network. So we do think about it as a social network as well for the companies who are on the network. But really the value for them is getting new customers and reaching existing ones. So customers discover their API, they start using it on Postman, or maybe they know the company has an API, but they're having a hard time using it, but the developer is very familiar with Postman, so it makes it very easy for them to use that API. So for them, it's much more about reaching, getting customers, and for the developers, it's much more about seeing what other developers are doing and seeing what API companies are doing.
Our API network is pretty extensive. Who's on there, and how many APIs do we have?
Yeah. So it's really what I love about this question is that there was a period of time where I never had it all memorized because it was big when I got here. So I'm standing on the shoulders of giants. But there was a period of time where I could tell you, like, here's what every company did in the last week because I was watching it. And at this point, it's impossible for me to keep up. So that's my preferred way to answer this question. But to give you something a little more concrete, it's over 18,000 companies, and it's companies like AWS, it's Google, it's Meta. Companies you've heard of. It's also newer, smaller companies like Memento, who have a serverless caching infrastructure. Companies I've never heard of working in industries I didn't even know needed APIs. So I was looking at the activity company called Serve the other day.
Mm-hmm.
They provide API infrastructure for catering businesses.
Oh,
so you
cool.
can call an API to say how many banquets you need and look at the availability of rooms and servers, and it's all API driven. And I think it's very representative of the kinds of things you can discover on the network and the companies who are there.
Awesome. So what this network sort of does is it allows developers, instead of going to a company's API docs, finding their APIs, they can actually just go ahead and search within the API network and find their APIs that way.
Yeah. So there's a couple of ways that a developer ends up using an API on the network or engaging with a company on the network. Primarily developers are creatures of habit. When the habits change, they change very abruptly and very loudly. But otherwise, there's a habit that everyone follows. We still see a lot of inbound traffic coming from Google. People are still searching things. Increasingly, that's coming from ChatGPT. And then we also see developers coming in through the developer portal. It's a very common place to start. But then also developers who are just the millions of developers who are just on Postman. That search bar, any API name, any company name they type in, if the company is there, they're going to discover that company's API and be able to start using it on the network. But those are all valid entry points, and we see developers coming through all of them. And the way we think about that is that just means that developers want to use these APIs on Postman.
So what makes a public API really shine on the public network?
Yeah, it's a great question. Yeah, there's table stakes you have to do. Obviously, when you want it to be well documented, you want it to be easy to use. You need to be able to onboard. Authorization has to be straightforward. These are like sort of the obvious answers. I think maybe going a level or two deeper, you really have to show that it's a priority to you for your developers, that they have a good experience. And that's, it starts with the documentation, but also the engagement.
Right.
Like, what are you telling them about your APIs as they're changing, and how are you communicating that to them in a way that's easy for them to consume and test? Like, okay, that's a feature I want to use. Okay, this is a breaking change. How do I stay ahead of it? What do I need to do? And the network makes it really easy to do that, because you can literally just, you can contact all of your watchers in the network and let them know how your API is changing. And that's to me the sign of a really good, a great team behind an API.
Yeah.
Is the one who's thinking a lot about how they're communicating to the developers at the other end.
Totally. There's a metric there, the time to first call, the time to your first 200 OK. I mean, what do you think that's driven by? I feel like it's documentation, making it easy for devs to just go in and hit an endpoint and get their first 200 OK.
Yeah, I mean, we use this word a lot here at Postman, as you know, collaboration, and it's a very big word. It's load bearing, but I think about collaboration on the network. It's about the setup that a company does to make it easy for that developer to get started. And so here I would talk about PayPal, and they have this amazing sandbox environment. So before you even have to set up an account with PayPal, you can start calling their APIs, because they've vended an environment out to every developer. So if you want to understand how to create an order, or list an invoice, how to send a payment, you can do all these in a set. So you can literally get to a 200 OK in 20 seconds using
That's
PayPal.
amazing.
And if you think about the alternative route, like, they have great docs, but if you go and you read them and then you're writing code and you're setting up your credentials, it's not happening in 20 seconds. If you really know what you're doing, it's probably a few hours, might even be a few days.
Yeah. Where I get stuck with API, public APIs, is their auth. And I know we have a great feature for that.
Yeah. So there's another thing we talk about collaboration. What does that really mean? It's, setting things up so that one of the ways you can collaborate is setting things up so it's easy for the developer. And so one of the things that a company can do is they can actually configure their authorization on Postman. So if you want to go use, a recently HubSpot, it's a great example. If you want to use HubSpot's API on Postman, the OAuth 2 application is configured for you right there. So all you have to do is say, I want to start using this API. Click the orange button to authorize, you get redirected to HubSpot, and then within seconds, you're calling your APIs. That's another one where you can get to a 200 OK in tens of seconds. And it's because they put that effort and time in.